So Don Lemon, Tucker Carlson, both fired, same day, same time. Sounds like too much of a coincidence to me. I find it hard to believe that there wasn't some sort of coordination here. So the question that we need to ask ourselves, especially relative to finance, is the why. The why is important because we're dealing with two of the largest news organizations in the world, definitely in the country, and definitely as far as being publicly traded goes. So if you're an investor, this can be a shot over the bow. Let's talk about why. Okay, so there's a couple of things that are possibilities. One, they're just a little too extreme. One to the left, one to the right. It's possible. Two, they were starting to demand a lot from their stations. Again, they were the top guys at their respective media outlets. So it's possible that they just became a bit too demanding. Three, something that happens in all major organizations. Sometimes a personality becomes so big that it overshadows the overall organization. And they do not want that. Fox News doesn't want that. CNN, MSNBC, they do not want that, right? They do not want to be overshadowed by a personality. And then there's something that would tie probably into the investment world at the moment, which would be the number four, I would say, is the world seems to be heading in the financial world towards decentralization or the introduction of decentralization. We are a capitalist nation. And one thing that happens inevitably and cannot be stopped in capitalism is that certain trees grow so large that they cast a shadow over the rest of the forest and nothing else can grow. Our media has done that. Our healthcare has done that. Our food has done that. Our banking has done that. I can go on and on and on, and I'm going to cover each of these topics. So the fact of the matter could be that the trees knowing how large they'd become, the organization realizing how large they had become, if there's no vegetation growing underneath, if there's no competition, if there's no one else, then they are going to look like that video that I know you all saw going around, where it went from one network to the next, and the anchors were saying the exact same thing. And it went through, I don't know how many, 100 different news organizations, 500 different news organizations, right? And they're all saying the exact same thing. This is not good for any media outlet. What it says to the world is, you're not worth listening to. You're not giving me the news. You're running a narrative. You have a narrative that you're following. And who's the big ringleader behind the narrative? Well, who owns the media outlets? Okay, it's these two guys. Wait a minute. Who are the politicians that they give money to? And it starts a lot of turmoil that we've seen break out recently. I'm not telling you there's not truths in those things. What I'm saying to you is, when you go through and you see 500 anchors saying the exact same sentence, this is a real problem, right? You have got to get some smaller news organizations working for you. Now, do I think that Fox and CNN were biting the bullet to no, I do not think that, right? I want to be clear about that. But what I will say is those media organizations right now are under heavy scrutiny. The world is starting to see that we're just hearing the same message over and over. It does sound like a narrative, but I would like to offer another side of that particular coin as well, that not a lot of people are talking about. We're choosing what we're seeing nowadays. It's us. We're picking. The more you click on whatever story that Don Lemon says, the more that you're going to see it. Because what happens is these media conglomerates, that's what they are. It comes from the top. Right now, people want to hear about X. Make sure you're talking about X. That's where all the hits are coming in. All of a sudden, there 300 organizations are talking about X. The same thing for Tucker. Oh, everybody wants to hear about Y. Make sure you're talking about Y. Next thing you know, you have 500 organizations talking about Y. But in the end, it's us. It's we, the people, guiding this stuff. And what I would say is, look, it's really easy to point fingers and try to say that it's happening from this person's funding that person, and you draw these crazy ideas. I think it's really simple. I mean, marketing and advertising has always been run the same way. Wherever they're getting, that's what an ABC test is, right? That's what an A/B test is. Where are we getting the most clicks, the most hits? And they break that down. And to a point now, with AI, it's going to get worse. They're going to break it down where, yes, they're going to be saying the exact same sentences. So this is what I would say. And I look at everything, not everything, but I look at the world, and I do believe you can follow the money. I mean, bankers have been running the world for as long as we can remember. He in control of the money, at least in this world, seems to be in control of most everything else. So what I would say is this: it appears to me anyway that if I were investing, I would start to look at some of these like decentralized news outlets as far as your stocks go. I mean, I don't know exactly. You got to go in and look. I'm not giving you financial advice, but what I'm telling you is Meta is looking to do it. I know Rumble is already doing it with Russell Brand. You have Vimeo. You have these other smaller places, and there's places online. You want to start looking smaller. I think what we're facing now in this country, as far as companies go, and as far as these giant conglomerates go, they've gotten as big as they can get. And the only thing that can follow that is a breakdown of our society, which I absolutely do not believe would happen. And I do believe that the people that own Fox News, the people that own CNN, if they felt that was a possibility, would they take one for the team? Absolutely. Because remember this, and I'm not denying this, that we, the people, are the herd, and they milk us, so to speak. We pay the money. We pay the taxes. Make no mistake about it. It's the middle class that pays the taxes. The poor are just there to keep us scared, and the rich, money doesn't matter. They kind of do what they want to do. They have high-priced lawyers and tax attorneys that skirt the entire system. I will also talk about the tax system and how I think it could be a bit more fair towards all of us in another video. But that's what the middle class is here for. You don't kill the cow. You don't have a herd of 100 cows that are your dairy cows and you go out and slaughter them for steak. You have to keep them. You have to look, for lack of a better way of putting this, they have to be able to keep milking us. If they can't keep milking us, this whole thing collapses. So I do think in all areas of our country, I don't know if it's going on globally. I have no idea. I'm not going to pretend to. I don't know. But I can tell you this. I can tell you that I can see in this country that things have been realized. Right? Banking kind of threw in a weird hook this week, and I'll talk about that in my video about what's going on in the banking. But so that threw me for a little bit of a loop. I don't quite understand why they're trying to make the big banks bigger, although those banks are global, so perhaps that's why. But I do think from an investing standpoint right now, when you see people like Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon getting fired on the same day, those two guys have a big enough following. They're going to go to smaller organizations. The both of them are going to go to smaller organizations. They're going to get picked up. They have no worries as far as a job goes. But I think that you need to start looking at smaller companies. People that work with me one-on-one, I tell them the companies I'm looking at. If you're interested in that, you can head on over to VPG Theory and see what I do. In any case, that's what I think about the Don Lemon and Tucker situation. Right. I think that those media outlets have gotten too big. I don't think that they're too divisive. They are divisive, but that's what people seem to want nowadays. And I think that's what people have always wanted. But I just think that either they got too big for the britches, so to speak, and they wanted way too much, or their giant personalities had started to overshadow the organizations as a whole, and they had to go. So that's what I think. And if I were an investor, what I would start doing is looking for smaller media outlets, ones that have room for growth over the next seven generations or so. I do believe that is the way the world's going. If you watch my Great Reset video, I don't think the Great Reset is what people think it is. I think the fact of the matter is corporations are now running the world because, at least in this country, they've been deemed people by the Supreme Court, and we do need to nullify that. We need to correct that. And the way you do that is you get rid of these giant corporations and you make the people the corporation themselves, like the personality. So I do talk a bit about that in the Great Reset video. So anyway, if you enjoyed this, like and subscribe. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer. If you want to know the companies I'm talking about, shoot me an email. Anyway, in any case, thanks for stopping by.